Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I am Dr. Mark, and welcome to this week's podcast from Premier Life Carmel. Today, I have what I think is a pretty interesting topic that I'd like to go over with you, and it's a concept of how we age. And we're not able to stop or necessarily even slow the aging process, but we can take steps to help to age as well as possible and try and keep our health span as intact as we can as we age. The term I want you to hear today about this topic is called inflammaging. So inflammaging is a combination of the inflammation that occurs as a normal process and byproduct of living. Those inflammation byproducts come from both internal and external stressors in our life. So we all know about the stressors of life, whether it's emotional stresses, physical stresses, chemical stresses, and the impact that can have on our body and our nervous system. But the other thing we need to consider is we have our own internal mechanisms that create inflammation. And that is our everyday process of how our cells take the food that we eat, turn it into energy, and then the waste products our body has to make in the way that the cells have to release that information through our body to be eliminated through our normal pathways, whether that's going to the bathroom or sweating or breathing that stuff out. That's how we eliminate some of these. So as we age, a normal byproduct is what is now called inflammaging. Not a new term, not a new concept, but one that's going to come more to the forefront because the process of aging and the associated inflammation with just everyday activities is independent of illness. It's independent of what we would think of as getting a cold or a flu or any of those things or even an injury that can create inflammation in our body. Inflammaging deals more with a chronic, sustained, non-functional, really process that our body can get itself into. And the problem with this is just not that it can give us things like chronic fatigue or can result in headaches or can create even more neurological strain and tension on our bodies. But this process of chronic, sustained, non-functional, no real functional reason for us to have that is associated with a lot of the chronic and very common diseases that we're aware of. Some of those include a wider range of cardiovascular problems. That includes everything from atherosclerosis to heart problems specifically, and even things like high blood pressure. Inflammaging, or the process of inflammation related to our daily lifestyle and aging process, also has a big impact and a larger risk for things like metabolic problems. That includes any endocrine disorder. That includes things like diabetes and osteoporosis. All of those things are directly related to this inflammaging, chronic, sustained inflammatory process in our body. The other thing that's very closely associated with this is autoimmune diseases. So you can pick any autoimmune disease that you want to talk about. Those are exacerbated and increased risked when we have this inflammaging process going on in our body. The other important concept is this the issue of chronic neurodegenerative diseases. And again, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, whether we're talking about Parkinson's, whether we're talking about neuropathy. All of these are also closely related to this inflammation related to our normal aging process. And remember, this is independent of injuries. This is independent of a reason for our immune system to respond. It's just an over response that occurs as a normal byproduct of both our external and internal mechanisms of stressors onto our body. So as always, how do we deal with this? I mean, we can't stop aging. We're all going to age. So how do we mitigate the effects of this onto our life and onto our lifestyle? Well, it's the same things that we probably all know. Exercise helps to decrease this increased neurological and immune response of inflammation. Just getting up and moving, walking 10, 15 minutes a day. Any exercise, any activity, any movement has a very direct and good impact on decreasing this inflammation response. Diet is another thing that we know. Choosing more appropriate food choices that are real foods, whole foods, and less processed foods. Those are definitely going to help as well. Sleep and stress management. those are extremely important. And that's just our everyday stuff. So this, again, is things that we can't get away from. But as part of a healthy lifestyle change, these are things that we need to be more mindful of and really trying to work into our program as best we can so that it's not another stressor on our lifestyle, but actually can help to facilitate our wellness as we age. And it doesn't matter if we're in our 20s, it doesn't matter if we're in our 80s or 90s. This inflammaging process starts very young. These are things that occur in gestation or when the baby's still in the uterus. These are things that occur at birth. These are things that occur throughout our childhood and our adolescence. So these are accumulating, they're cumulative in nature, and these tend to build on each other. And that inflammation process can just take on a life of its own. So we want to try and manage those as well as we can, just from the standpoint of trying to impact our health as positively as we're able to. Now, one of the most important concepts with this is chiropractic care. So listen, we all know that our nervous system runs every single system in our body. It doesn't matter what it is. And this inflammaging is an inflammatory and a hyper response of our immune system. Well, that is called a neuroimmunological response. So everything that occurs with inflammation, whether it's due to a trauma, an injury, or cold or flu or whatever that may be, or it's this just everyday inflammation created by our cellular activity, our body's metabolism, and all of those external stressors we've already talked about, chiropractic care is the cornerstone for helping to abate and help to manage these symptoms of inflammation and over response of our immune system. So by allowing the body to take the stress patterns off of the nervous system, removing that interference in our neurological communication from our brain out to our organs, tissues, and cells, and allowing for that free communication to flow out and back in, because it's a bidirectional, it's a two-way street. By taking those stressors off and removing those strain patterns from the nervous system, our immune system and that inflammatory cascade of chemicals that occurs is decreased, and it's immediate, and it's all neurologically mediated. In other words, an adjustment will help to decrease the inflammaging process or any inflammation in the body, because there's that direct neurological connection to help break that cycle. And it's immediate, and it's powerful, and it's sustained. But that, again, is all part of making this chiropractic care a part of our healthy lifestyle. It's not just a symptom management tool. It's not just a pain management tool, because pain is just another symptom of, let's talk about a muscular skeletal response to inflammation. So we all know we can have chronic fatigue, we can have fibromyalgia, we can have any of those aches and pains. That's just another process of that inflammaging. And again, chiropractic adjusting and a regular and consistent chiropractic care is emerging. It is just absolutely exploding in the research to show what a potent and powerful tool this is to help minimize the impact of all inflammation in the body and help to regulate every organ system, every tissue, every cell in the body responds so positively to that chiropractic input. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to follow up in the office. As always, we look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. And thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.